This boy was trapped in another world. His name was Chan Seok. There, he became the strongest, an absolute genius, capable of destroying any monster. After years of fighting, he finally returned to Earth. But there was a problem. Earth had also been invaded. Now, the world he left behind is on the brink of extinction, and the only one who can stop it is him. 20 years have passed, and he declares that today he will defeat the monster to save the world. Just then, a powerful attack hits its target dead on, causing a massive explosion. Amidst the smoke, a dark silhouette reveals itself on the battlefield. Seeing that he withstood the blow, the monster says he is worthy of the title of hero, but it warns that his companions can barely stand on their own. Responding to the taunt, the hero says the monster doesn't look so good either. Furious at the insolence, the monster readies an attack with its hand. Unfazed, the hero turns and prepares his weapon for a counterattack. Then, the two charge forward and clash with a brutally violent impact. In the background, the group's mage struggles to keep a protective barrier active. Screaming in rage, the creature says it will tear him apart if he doesn't surrender. Right after, it unleashes a powerful attack, declaring that this land is its kingdom. Despite being hit, the hero stands firm against the enemy's powerful onslaught. Just then, the monster's attack seems to intensify even more against the hero. With both hands, he grips his weapon tighter, bracing himself. Determined to end the fight, he declares he'll finish it all right there. Immediately after, a massive explosion erupts on the battlefield. Hit head-on, he takes the full impact of the attack. Then, everything is engulfed in an intensely bright, blinding light. Using his special technique, he manages to hold his ground amidst the chaos. Even so, the force of the impact violently throws him back. Landing firmly, he digs his feet into the ground to keep from falling. At that moment, a beam of energy shoots across the battlefield at high speed. With determined gazes, the two continue to face each other during the clash. From the force of the impact, the ground around them begins to shatter. Struck by several projectiles, the monster retreats from the damage. Wasting no time, the creature readies its claw for a direct attack. Charging forward, the creature lands a vicious blow on the hero. To avoid being dragged, he uses his weapon to brace himself on the ground. Laughing at the situation, the monster says such a weak attack won't even scratch it. Questioning the remark, he asks if the monster really thought the attack was weak. Pointing his weapon, he unleashes a powerful technique toward the enemy. He then warns that his strike is more than enough to cut through its arrogance. Hit directly, the creature's body begins to burn intensely. At that, a piece of the monster's body breaks off and falls to the ground. With a severe wound in its chest, the monster continues to be consumed by the ability. Surprised, it says it never imagined a human could face it like this. Responding calmly, the hero reveals he is not actually from this world. Calling it absurd, the monster claims one day it will be absorbed by the earth. Suddenly, the creature falls silent, realizing something is wrong. Asking if it's having trouble, the hero points out that it can't regenerate. He explains that the black flame is his ability, and it uses concepts as fuel. Revealing the secret, he says what's burning is the monster's very existence. Realizing its end is near, the monster says he will never be remembered as the hero, because the people he calls companions are just there waiting for him to die. Confirming the betrayal, he says he already knew, leaving the monster completely shocked. Desperate, the priestess begs him not to believe a monster's words. Revealing the plan, he says she actually despised him for being an outsider, all so he would hesitate to attack her after the subjugation was over. Turning to her, he asks directly if he happens to be wrong. Falling silent, she can't answer, confirming the entire accusation. Looking to the side, he states that the other two are exactly the same. He reveals the knight received a treasure from the emperor to eliminate him, and the mage hates him simply because he opposed the slavery system. To sum it up, he says he's known for 5 years that they would kill him. Confused, the monster says that with his power, he could have destroyed the world. Gazing at the horizon, he reveals he only didn't do it because he wanted to go home. Surprised by the answer, the monster asks if he really wanted to go home. In a 20-year flashback, he was an ordinary worker before being summoned, but he explains that the world he was sent to was a disaster in itself. He explains that to return, there was only one way: defeat the monsters. In a village in the past, 2 guards stop him, telling him he can't come in. Carrying a child, he says he rescued her and asked to be let inside, but the guards say he should have left the child there to die. Remembering another problem, he frequently saw people screaming in pain. Medicine was so bad that a doctor orders a man to be held down for an amputation. He discovered they would amputate limbs for simple infections, as no healers were available. Suddenly, someone approaches and calls him by his title of hero. At the local church, a cleric asks how he managed to rescue that child. Then a nun reveals they will exorcise the demon from the child themselves. Telling him not to go against the gods, they ask him to abandon his pity. After enduring everything for 20 years, he finally defeated the monster. Returning to the present, he finally declares that the long battle is over. At that, his companion says that since he knows everything, they can't let him live. Turning his face away, he says he actually hates that world with all his might. Expressing his frustration, the knight prepares for what's to come. Seeing the hero is still standing, he says they've created a monster. Catching his breath, the hero prepares to speak with the divine entity. Shouting with all his might, he demands that the promise finally be fulfilled. At this, the three companions look up, seeing an intense light descend from the sky. Immediately after, a powerful beam of light strikes the ground violently. Appearing in the light, the goddess congratulates him for defeating the great monster. Pointing to the sky, he reminds her of the promise to preserve his soul. He then adds that she promised to send him back to Earth. Questioning his choice, she says his achievements as a hero will be nullified. With a faint smile on his face, he prepares to give his answer. Telling her to stop the theatrics, he just wants her to keep her promise. Asking one last question, she wants to know if he won't regret this. He states that his only wish is to return to the world he once knew. Dropping his weapon to the ground, he affirms that's all that matters. Agreeing to his request, the goddess says his will shall be done. Looking at his hand, he says that cursed world is finally behind him. As he's enveloped by light, the goddess warns him that his original body no longer exists. She then explains she will place his soul in a body fated for a bad end. Ignoring the warning, he states that just returning to Earth is enough. Believing it will be better, he accepts his fate and a transition begins. Waking up in a room, he stands up and wonders if he's finally back. Now in a civilian's body, he clenches his fist, remembering those damned traitors. Relieved he won't have to see them, he suddenly notices a mirror in the room. Touching the reflection, he says that from now on, this young man will be him. On his knees, he confirms that he has finally made it back to Earth. Going to the bathroom, he splashes clean water on his face and marvels at the magic of it. Then he turns on the stove, happy to no longer need firewood and campfires. Finding a box, he opens it with a smile and says he missed this. Looking at the contents, he asks in shock if this is really fried chicken. Holding the piece of chicken, he gets ready to finally take a bite. Then he sits on the floor and starts to eat the meal eagerly. With a piece in his hand, he says the taste is so good it makes him cry. Letting the tears fall, he says he missed all of this so much. Looking out the window, he says he can finally live a normal life. Stunned by the date, he realizes time has passed the same way in both worlds. He then states that adjusting won't be any more horrible than the other world. He turns on the shower and water starts pouring down hard inside the stall. Enjoying the hot water, he finally gets to truly relax for the first time. After his shower, he turns on the room's air conditioner with a single button press. Looking out at the city, he says this is very different from that other world. Thinking about what to do, he remembers a monster he faced in the past. Startled by the memory, he screams and falls to the floor in sudden shock. Just then, an announcement for the residents begins to play throughout the building. Being warned about a rift, he wonders what that could be. Soon after, the announcement asks everyone to evacuate to the underground shelter. With a serious look, he analyzes the new and unexpected dangerous situation. Arriving at the location, he finds several masked creatures waiting for them. Suddenly, the claw of one of the monsters shatters the glass door. Seeing the shelter entrance, he prepares to run down the stairs. Running with the others, he tries to escape the creatures that have invaded the place. Without looking back, he keeps going down as fast as he can. Not understanding anything, he wonders what the hell is happening on Earth. Meanwhile, the creatures continue down the stairs, chasing the building's residents. Spotting a nearby window, he jumps through it to escape the chase. Hiding behind a wall, he says with relief that he finally managed to lose them. Then, he's surprised to see a little boy running alone down the dark hallway. Trying to help, he warns him that it's dangerous, but the boy asks about the monster. With a bat in hand, the boy says he's going to kill the monster and invites him along. Totally shocked by the proposal, he asks what the boy just said. Ending up following the boy, he discovers that Earth has been like this for 15 years. Trying to understand the situation, he asks the boy to explain everything one more time. The boy then says that the rifts are portals from which the monsters come out. With an expression of pure fury, he laments returning to a hell. When questioned, he makes up the excuse that he lived in the United States for a while. The boy then starts talking about the president, leaving him even more confused. Changing the subject, the boy excitedly shouts the name of his favorite hunter. Explaining about the hunter, the boy says she is dealing with a rift. Not understanding how that's possible, he wonders how a normal human can fight. Commenting on the heroine, he says he especially likes her big sword. At that moment, the boy tries to show him a video, but he covers the boy's mouth. Seeing the boy's confusion, he holds him still to ensure total silence. With a focused gaze, he realizes there are 6 enemies nearby. not 5. Feeling that his body is strong, he prepares to fight against several enemies, but he still needs to decide what to do with the boy, who looks scared. Suddenly, he feels an energy in the air and realizes that it's mana. Confirming it's the same as in the other world, he understands he might have a chance. Then, an approaching monster is hit by a small attack on the head. The impact destroys the creature, surprising the other monsters around. With mana in the air, he understands he can fight even without his reserves. This means he can still use his special ability engraved in his soul. Using his flame, he destroys another monster, and the boy shouts that it was amazing. Glad that he's okay, he hears the boy talk about his unique ability. Remembering a video, the boy runs to confirm the kill, but he shouts for him to wait. Aware of the danger, he realizes that the flames of Paradox haven't gone out yet. He then yells that the flames don't go out until the target is completely dead. Just then, the monster's remains attack and hit the boy who was on the ground. The impact of the attack leaves the boy's face wounded on the cheek. Grabbing the remains with his hand, he says he doesn't know what YouTube is. Still holding the monster, he tells the boy he should stop watching that stuff. Looking at the boy, he asks to borrow the bat he's holding. Even without quite understanding, the boy hands the weapon to the man in front of him. Seeing an opening, the other creatures charge forward to attack them both at once. With the weapon in hand, his gaze becomes completely focused on the approaching enemies. Spinning his body, he delivers a circular strike with the bat against the monsters. Using the bat, he hits all the enemies at the same time with one attack. On the floor, the boy is impressed, watching everything with a look of amazement. Impressed by the fight, the boy asks if he's a secret hunter. He then gets frustrated for having gone through one hell only to find another. Seeing that Earth is no different, he joins the other survivors there. Suddenly, the shelter door opens and more people enter the place. Walking with the boy, he jokes that times have really changed around here. Just then, 2 people appear in the crowd and shout the boy's name. Thanking him for bringing him back, the mother hugs him and says he's so reckless. From their designer clothes, he realizes the boy was actually from a wealthy family. Feeling a tremor, he looks up and realizes something is very wrong. Suddenly, a giant fist smashes through the shelter's ceiling with extreme violence. With the violent impact, the wall collapses on the people who were there. Through the hole, a huge monster emerges and lets out a terrifying roar in their direction. Seeing the shelter wall collapse, people panic and start to run. As everyone runs, the boy warns that this time they need to flee too. Lowering his head, he laments that he wasn't asking for much in his life. He laments, saying he just wanted to return to the world he missed so much. Looking at his wounded hand, he wonders if he was asking for too much. Turning to the boy, he calls him a brat, but the boy complains about the nickname. He then asks why a rich kid wants to fight instead of living safely. With a serious look, the boy reveals that he lost his father to a monster. He explains that a rift even appeared in the bunker that was considered safe. Because of that, the boy says he's going to become the strongest hunter of all. Shouting his great goal, he declares with conviction that he will save the world. Giving a smile, he says the boy will surely become a great hunter, but he warns that the boy won't be the one to save the world. Seeing his mother trying to go, the boy says that the man is still in danger. Ignoring the protest, the mother starts dragging the boy away from the chaos. Being taken by force, the boy shouts for him as he's pulled away. Looking back, the boy continues to watch the scene as he moves away from him. He then announces that the one who will save the world will actually be him. Hearing the words, the boy processes the phrase about saving the world again. With a smile, he states that saving the world is a job for someone who's already done it. After fighting for 20 years, he returned to Earth with no time to enjoy it. Using his experience, he survived and even promised the boy he would save the world. But some time passed, and he ended up doing absolutely nothing since then. Seeing the victory screen, he realizes he's won another game match. Celebrating the result, he says it was too easy and drinks some soda. Then, he cracks open another can to continue his gaming marathon. Despite his promise, his desire to save the world didn't last long. With plenty of games and food, he got used to the comfortable life on Earth. Grabbing his phone, he decides it might be a good time to order delivery. Looking at the app, he's shocked to see he's already spent his entire severance pay. With no money, he explains he's already tried to find a new job, but with no success. With the rifts appearing, most companies were going bankrupt and shutting down. He then realizes he needs a job to survive in modern society. Looking at his phone, he finds an ad for recruiting new hunters. Having experience in the field, he decides to go to the local Hunters Association. Walking through the lobby, people are excitedly talking about becoming professional hunters. Then, a man says the test has become just a formality these days. Looking at the crowd, he states they're all the same, a bunch of amateurs. Suddenly, a huntress arrives, sparking whispers about whether they'll become famous. Learning of her presence, one of the candidates goes into complete shock. With a shout, he reveals to everyone that the famous hunter is there. Seeing the woman sitting down, Everyone is stunned to see the world's 10th ranked hunter. The candidates wonder if the Janabi Guild sent her to recruit someone. Then, they find out her target is a graduate from the Hunter Academy. Being corrected, the man says she's a candidate, not a power generator. Unconvinced, one of the men questions if she'll actually be useful in practice. Explaining his theory, he yells that hunting in rifts is real combat. Another man agrees, saying many who excel at the academy don't survive. He then concludes that practice and real combat are two completely different things. Thanking them for their patience, the announcer signals the start of the first test match. With a smile, she says they need to prove their worth to her. Looking at the file, the announcer comments that one of the candidates is quite interesting. He then notices the candidate is a civilian, not even from the academy. Since it's unprecedented, the announcer is surprised by the unusual situation. He then wonders at the man's courage for being there. Announcing the candidate, he is called by a name he still hasn't gotten used to. As the two face off, the match rules are finally announced to everyone. Having decided to become a hunter, he resolves to save this world. His opponent, however, finds the whole situation unbelievable and scoffs. To reach his goal, he first needs to get good results in the tournament. With a gesture, the announcer sends the two candidates to their starting positions. As soon as the fight begins, his rival advances using a fire technique. Unfazed by the attack, he just stares down his opponent seriously. With a confident smirk, the rival boasts about being the academy's undefeated spearman. Keeping calm, he carefully watches his opponent's charge approach. Taking a step forward, he moves towards the academy's spearman. When the rival attacks, he dodges, and the spear hits nothing but air. Not understanding what happened, the spearman looks for his vanished opponent. Appearing behind him, he comments that the guy is quite clumsy with a spear. Then, he lands a hard blow to the stomach, making his opponent double over. Right after, he sweeps his leg and knocks the spearman to the ground. With a quick and precise punch, he strikes his opponent's face squarely. Knocked out, the guy falls to the ground, completely unconscious from the blow. Seeing the fight is over, he says he used his hands to avoid seriously injuring him. With a smile, he comments that the average level of hunters seems pretty low. Surprised by his performance, the huntress wonders who this mysterious candidate is. Informed about his past, the assistant says he has almost no mana. Not understanding the situation, the man assumes the result was just luck. Then, she offers her assistant a piece of candy, which shuts him up. Eating the candy, she states that he actually doesn't accumulate mana on purpose. To prove his skills, he decides he needs to end the fight decisively. Approaching his rival, he walks calmly as the other man gets up from the ground. Preparing to strike, he says it won't be a fatal wound. Startled, the spearman can't react in time to defend against the blow. With a chop to the back of the neck, he knocks out his rival, who falls to the ground again. At that, an alarm sounds, and he's announced as the match's winner. Watching intently, the huntress seems to analyze his every move in the arena. Meanwhile, the other recruiters talk excitedly about what they just saw. Wanting to see his real skills, she stands up and decides to make her move. When questioned, she reveals she needs to see the association's president now. Winning another fight, he complains that the rookies are too weak for him. He then wonders what the hell they teach at that so-called Hunter Academy. Even with a sword, he beats his opponent with just a single, well-aimed kick. Without breaking a sweat, he wonders if there isn't a single decent opponent in this place. Noticing something to his side, he turns and senses a new presence in the arena. In the audience, one of the men comments that she's beautiful and that he'll finally get to see. Announced for the grand final, the candidate enters the combat arena. He then remarks that, at least she looks like a real opponent. He continues, saying she was the one who gathered the most mana out of everyone there. Warning him that his luck has run out, she says he has nothing. She then deduces that because he fights with his fists, he has no unique skill, but she warns him that doesn't mean she'll go easy on him. Responding to the taunt, he says he does have a skill, but he won't use it. With a sigh, she readies herself for the start of the combat in the arena. As soon as the fight begins, she charges forward with her sword at high speed. Gripping the hilt tightly, she channels energy into her sword's blade. In response, he braces for the charge coming his way. Launching her attack, she fires a blast of energy straight at him. With the unexpected result, she is completely surprised by what happens. He ends up on the ground, while she remains standing in the arena. Shocked, she wonders how he dodged a lightning bolt just by jumping. Finding it interesting, he analyzes her technique and understands how the skill works. Getting up, he says her skills are the best so far. He then points out that she focused too much on attacking quickly. To accelerate her sword, She created a magnetic rail in the air in front of her. With a smile, he says no one would fall for such an obvious attack. Angered by the taunt, she prepares to attack with all her strength. Charging forward, she yells she can beat him even without using her special technique. Dodging the attacks, he asks if she's an idiot for continuing to attack. With her hands, she begins to gather a large amount of electrical energy. Then, she releases all the power at once, creating a huge explosion. Even as he's hit, he realizes she's forcing herself to gather mana. He then understands that if she keeps this up, her body will end up destroying itself. Saying it was fun, he asks them to stop right there, surprising her. With a smile, he warns her that if it hurts, she should just raise her hand. Coming up from behind, he lands a powerful blow directly on her back. From the impact, she feels intense pain and can barely react. Without giving her time to recover, he readies his fist for the next attack. Then, he starts a sequence of rapid strikes, hitting her several times in a row. Moving his arm with speed, he unleashes another punch with all his might. Striking her squarely in the stomach, he finishes the combo with a decisive blow. With her eyes rolled back, she's left completely unconscious after taking the final hit. Unable to stay on her feet, she finally falls to the arena floor, defeated. In the audience, the recruiters are shocked to see the top student defeated. Stepping away, he concludes she focused only on mana and neglected her physical training. Turning his head, he's surprised to see she might not have given up yet. Lying on the ground, she raises her left hand as the announcer examines her. Remembering his warning, he realizes she actually raised her hand just as he asked. With the fight over, the medical team finally enters the arena to help her. Over the communicator, the announcer receives some information and asks in surprise what happened. With a surprise announcement, the announcer informs everyone that the tournament schedule has changed. Being told he needs to take a break, he doesn't understand the reason for the change. Then the announcer reveals he will have a special match with a huntress. Sitting in the audience, the assistant comments that, in the end, she got what she wanted. Seeing the crowd's reaction, he deduces his opponent is a skilled hunter. He then wonders if she organized the match herself to test his skills. With her blade on the ground, a voice asks if his name is Yu Chan Seok. Apologizing, the huntress says there was no other way to confirm his abilities. Introducing herself, she reveals she is Lee Se-yoon from the famous Janabi Guild. With a smile, she says the stage seems to have been too small for him. He then remembers she is the 10th strongest hunter in the world. Seeing her stance, he understands it would be a tough fight even with a spear. With a confident smile on his face, he prepares to answer the challenge. Without hesitation, he says they can fight right now, surprising the announcer. She then asks if he's excited, as she thinks she'll be able to see. He thinks that if he has to fight, he might as well aim for the best. For him, she is the perfect opponent to reach his great goal. Grabbing one of the weapons, he wonders if he should raise his value. In the audience, everyone is completely shocked by the sudden start of the special match. With her sword in hand, she lunges forward and delivers an extremely powerful blow. Trying to defend himself, he blocks the attack with his makeshift weapon in the arena. From the force of the impact, he can barely hold his ground against the strike. Pushing hard, she manages to break through his defense with a direct hit. Right after, she hits him with a kick, sending him flying across the arena. Watching the pace of the fight, she notices his speed has slowed down considerably. Panting, he can barely stay on his feet after the series of attacks. Asking if he's tired already, she says she didn't expect him to last this long. Taking another step forward, she prepares to end the fight right there. Warning him she'll make it easy, she moves in with her sword for the final blow. Gripping his weapon tighter, he braces for a desperate counterattack. With no mana reserves left, he takes a deep breath, ready to play his last card. Not wanting to use his trump card, he realizes he has no other choice now. With a focused gaze, he finally decides to use his skill, the Paradox Flame. Surprised by the change, she watches closely to see what's happening in the arena. With a swift move, he manages to dodge her attack at the last second. Not understanding the dodge, she says he shouldn't have been able to avoid that. Seeing the smoke around him, she wonders what that strange ability is. Revealing the name of the technique, he confidently calls it the Paradox Flame. He then explains that this is the specialty he used most before returning. Showing his intact clothes, he says the black flame doesn't burn matter. He continues, saying that it uses abstract concepts as fuel to burn. Deciding what to burn, he rushes towards her at great speed. Just then, she realizes he's suddenly much faster than before. Leaping into the air to attack, he yells that the concept to be burned is fatigue. Completely shocked by the change, she wonders how he recovered so quickly. Immediately after, the two clash again in an intense exchange of blows. Analyzing the arena's environment, she notices the mana concentration is fluctuating. He then explains that his flame releases mana by burning any abstract concept. Continuing his explanation, he reveals that the flame burns his fatigue to generate more mana. With this, He claims the result is an infinite cycle of energy. Charging forward again, he says that in other words, his specialty is simple. Knocked back by a blow, she can barely defend against his charge. Annoyed by the situation, she asks if he's going to keep this up forever. Staying on his feet, he says he's going to stick to her like a tick. With a smile, he reveals his specialty is a total war of attrition. Taunting his opponent, he asks if she likes guys who don't give up. Baring her teeth, she angrily replies that she absolutely hates men like that. Even with its power, the flame leaves a residue, like the ashes from a fire. After 4 hours, his flame finally goes out completely in the arena. Lying on the ground, he begs for mercy, and she is declared the winner. At that moment, one of the men beside her pulls a lollipop from his pocket. Seeing the candy, her other assistants scream in fear at the sight. Offering him the lollipop, she says she attached her business card to it. Reading the card, he wonders what this hunter agency is. With the tests over, the announcer calls him to receive his prize. Back at home, he's impressed by the technology of the hunter's license. Tired from the day, he just wants to rest. But someone calls him from outside. Seeing the man at his door, he's told that he looks better in person than on camera. Noticing his height, he asks who he is, and the man hands him a card. Introducing himself, he reveals he's a hunter from the Taebak Guild and makes an offer. With a smile, the man says that with the right experience, he'll shine. Suddenly, the female hunter appears behind him and offers her phone number. Saying he has an appointment, he pockets the cards to think about it later. Laughing at the situation, the man asks if he thought he wanted an answer right now. Placing a hand on his shoulder, he says there's something else, however. With a threatening look, he warns him to think carefully about his offer. Saying goodbye, the man leaves, leaving him behind with the warning. After the visit, he decides he's definitely going to skip the Taebak offer. Answering the phone, she introduces herself and asks where he wants to meet. With his phone in hand, he tells her he's at a cafe in the association building. Without recognizing the name of the place, he follows the location she sent. Arriving there, she greets him and invites him to sit at the table. Walking through the place, he comments on the unusual name of the cafe she chose. Sitting down, he reveals that a huge guy tried to recruit him earlier. She then explains that the other guilds didn't dare make an offer because of that. With a smile, he asks if that doesn't apply to her guild as well. Revealing her intentions, she says she actually has no plans to recruit him. She then suggests that he work as a freelancer without joining a guild. She mentions that the hunter from Taebak was probably going to offer him a junior position. Not understanding the terms, he asks about the difference between hunter ranks. Explaining the hierarchy, she shows the 3 levels of hunters in a guild. She then says that juniors and seniors belong to teams led by partners. Unlike the others, partners share the profits instead of receiving a salary. Commenting on the system, he says it sounds exactly like a law firm. She then says he doesn't need to belong to a guild to become a partner. With a smile, he understands that if he gets famous, they'll come after him. Handing him a piece of candy, she says that's exactly right, and he finds the gesture odd. He then worries about not having the connections or experience to get jobs. With a confident smile, she says she'll help him with that for free. Not understanding her kindness, he asks why she would do so much for him. She then reveals that she's putting him in her debt for the future. Taking out an envelope, she asks if he wants to take a look at the job. She then explains it's a request from a nearby city with a corrosion zone. Looking at the papers, he finds out the mission is to patrol the island in search of rifts. With the documents in hand, he sees the mission starts in 1 month. Analyzing the contract, he comments that the pay isn't that great. With a smile, she says that if he feels it's unfair, he just has to get famous. She then asks for an answer, and he considers the proposal with a serious look. About to give his answer, he begins to speak about his decision. Changing scenes to a car, someone asks what kind of guy he is. Correcting her assistant, she says he endured the fight for 4 hours. At this, one of the men asks if it wasn't because she limited her power. Looking out the window, she admits she normally would have toyed with an opponent of that level. Arriving at Gyeodongdo Island, she says she doubts she'll ever see another monster like him. Just then, someone warns that it doesn't matter how well she has rated him. Questioning his presence, a hunter points out that the mission called for someone with experience. Worried, they wonder if he'll be able to keep up with the veteran hunters on the team. With a hand on her sword, a woman tells the chief not to worry. Revealing her plan, she says she paired him up with someone very reliable. Looking at Seon, the woman asks what he would be like upon reaching her level. With a serious look, she states that if he ever reaches her level. Finishing the sentence, she says he would be able to defeat even the boss. 1 month in the past, he carries a large package to apartment 1506. Ringing the doorbell, he wonders what could be inside that package. After confirming the address, he finally arrives at the right destination. Opening the door, He confirms his special delivery has finally arrived. Without wasting any time, he unlatches the large case he received. Seeing the contents, his eyes widen as he stares at the newly arrived item. Holding the new spear, he says the weapon will serve him well. Then he picks up the elixir, an emergency potion for hunters. The explanation shows that normal hunters control and store mana in their bodies, but he reveals that his way of using mana is very different. Skipping the storage step, he draws mana directly from the surrounding atmosphere. By doing this, his mana channels eventually grow stronger over time. However, with no time to wait, he decides to stockpile mana using the elixir. By training with it for a month, he believes he'll grow as much as he needs to. After that month, a long line of people forms outside. Confirming his identity, the officer informs him that Yu-chan Seok is in Squad B. On a post, a sign shows the number 8 to indicate the group. There, amidst the others, he listens to the conversations before the mission begins. Suddenly, he hears his name being called and turns around, surprised. It was Han Sang-a, who comments on how different his hair looks now. She then suggests they work together since they're in the same squad. He replies that it's because she's stronger, and he can learn from her. Hearing the compliment, she asks if his shoulders often get dislocated. At that moment, a man in glasses calls for everyone's attention. Gathering Squad B, he announces that the mission briefing will now begin. He explains that there are rookie hunters present, and asks for everyone's understanding. Next, he details the classification of the rifts, including the Alpha category. Showing the location, he warns them not to approach the Alpha Rift. He then says their mission is to patrol 2 specific areas. Nearby, a hunter questions why a rookie is on a mission. Arriving at the location, the officer announces they are on Gyeodongdo Island. Holding his spear, Yu-chan Seok comments on the chilling energy of the place. He and Han Sang-a then walk past the other hunters, moving forward. Just then, one of the men takes out a pack of cigarettes to smoke. Then the officer explains that the situation is being monitored by a control room. Finishing the briefing, he wishes all the hunters the best of luck. Discussing the plan, one hunter says they will explore the area for a week. Within the group, one member stares at another, waiting for a decision. Interrupting the conversation, Yu-chan Seok suggests setting up a base at Hwagyesa Temple. Surprised, a hunter asks who he is and why they should go there. He explains that from the temple, it's possible to observe both mission areas. But one of the hunters retorts, saying there are other places to stay. Seeing their stubbornness, he refuses to follow orders from inexperienced hunters. With that, he suggests they simply act separately if they prefer. Deciding to go alone, his small group moves away through the dense forest. Looking back, he notices that a young man has followed them along with Han Sang-a, so he turns and asks Kim Min-jae why he came with them. Kim Min-jae explains he was worried about leaving 2 rookies alone on the mission. Suddenly, Yu-chan Seok senses a strange movement and goes on high alert. With a quick gesture, he signals the other 2 to stop immediately. Asking for silence, he motions for them to take a look at the situation up ahead. Hiding behind a rock, Kim Min-jae peeks out and is shocked by what he sees. Ahead of them, a large group of corrosion creatures walks through the forest. Scared, he suggests they look for a detour because of the enemies. Trying to calm him down, Yu-chan Seok asks what his unique hunter skill is. He then asks again, wanting to know his special ability. The young man replies that his ability is Flame, with his best attack being a fireball. At that, Yu-chan Seok tells him to attack first on his signal. Confused, Kim Min-jae turns to Han Sang-a, asking what he should do. He warns that it's crazy to fight so many monsters with just 3 people. Saying there's no time, he warns that the other hunters won't make it. Showing the map, he explains that the others are patrolling the coast right now. Furthermore, he warns of the danger of the creatures spreading out and attacking others. After hearing the explanation, Kim Min-jae agrees that he's completely right. He then concludes that, because of the earlier conflict, no one would come to help. At this, Yu-chan Seok declares that their only option is a surprise attack. Drawing out the plan, he instructs Kim Min-jae to attack the center with fire. Finishing the instructions, Kim Min-jae wonders who he really is. Nearby, the group of creatures moves on, still unaware of their presence. On signal, Kim Min-jae leaps forward and unleashes his fireball. Hitting the target dead on, the attack causes a huge explosion. Amidst the flames, the creatures are hit and begin to fall one by one. Carrying Kim Min-jae, he tells him to fire again as soon as he's ready. Without waiting, he swiftly charges towards what's left of the enemy group. With a focused gaze, he charges into the middle of the battle without hesitation. In the midst of the enemies, he attacks them all at once with his spear. One of the creatures is hit and recoils from his blow. Blocking the path, he fights to protect Kim Min-jae from the other monsters. Just then, Han Sang-a appears and strikes one of the approaching creatures. He then reinforces the importance of dividing tasks in the current battle. Gripping the hilt, she prepares to draw her sword quickly. With a swift movement, she cuts one of the creatures right down the middle. She then turns, ready for the next attack. With his attack charged, Kim Min-jae announces that he can fire again. Leaping into the air, he unleashes a second powerful fireball. Seeing the attack, Yu Chan-seok shouts for him to fire without worrying. The attack hits the ground, sending the remaining enemies flying in all directions. The creature leader then orders its minions to kill the two hunters. One of the remaining monsters is thrown far away after being hit. As the dust settles, he finally lands back on the forest floor. With his back to the scene, he then observes the final result of the battle. Turning his head, he starts to say that everyone there did a good job, but suddenly, Kim Min-jae points a gun directly at his head. Asking him to step back, Kim Min-jae reveals that it wasn't a weapon. He then brings the strange device closer to the body lying on the forest floor. He explains that a broker will come to collect the bodies later. Kim Min-jae then says it's too hard to carry the spoils alone. The brokers mark the monsters with chips and then collect the valuable items. After selling everything, they split the profits with the original hunter. Yu Chan-seok then asks if these brokers are really trustworthy. Praising the fight, he says he never imagined fighting so many monsters. Suddenly, a huge creature bursts from the ground, shattering everything around it. With quick reflexes, Yu Chan-seok pulls him away from danger. Back on their feet, the group faces the new threat that has appeared. Through the dust, the creature reveals a toothy grin. With a serious look, Yu Chan-seok analyzes the new enemy before them. He then warns that it seems to be some kind of mid-boss for the area. Seeing the monster, Kim Min-jae just laments their situation. Looking at the creature, he wonders if it's the leader of the pack. Then he announces he'll fight alone, telling them not to interfere. Worried, they suggest buying time with an attack so they can retreat. Yelling at them, he orders them to stop talking and fall back now. Shocked by the order, the two back away without another word. Now alone, he prepares to use his flames without holding back. He then challenges the enemy, calling it to the imminent battle. With that, a great battle begins between the two in the forest. Watching from a distance, Kim Min-jae suggests they need to help in the fight, but Han Sang-a says there's no need to interfere for now. She explains that despite the pressure, he hasn't been hit, and that wasn't all as she continues to analyze the fight from afar. Clarifying the situation, she says he's dodging and attacking simultaneously. Furthermore, she notices dark flames coming from the spear with each attack. As the flames grow, the monster gets slower and slower in combat. She realizes he's just toying with the monster now. Impressed, she wonders how that's possible for a mere rookie. Dodging the blow, he sidesteps the monster as it charges full force. Twisting his body, he prepares for the next move in the fight. He then grips the spear even tighter in his hands. With a swift motion, he throws the spear high into the air. Seeing this, she screams in surprise at what he just did. The spear flies, and Kim Min-jae wonders why he threw it. Seizing the opportunity, the monster charges to attack Yu Chan-seok directly. Getting very close, the monster comes face to face with him. He simply turns as the creature rushes right past him, but the spear returns and strikes the monster hard in the back. Holding the spear, he notices the monster can still move. With a determined look, he says he'll have to finish the fight. From a distance, his two companions watch in disbelief. Not understanding, Kim Min-jae wonders what happened to the fallen monster. Turning around, Yu Chan-seok calls out Kim Min-jae's name. He then asks if it's normal for a monster like that to appear on the island. He then recalls that the local rift was an unclassified level. With this, he concludes the rift must have risen to grade 3. Asking him to think about it, he says it's the only explanation. Startled, Kim Min-jae says the difference between the levels is gigantic. He then concludes that almost none of the other hunters will survive. Desperate, he asks Yu Chan-seok to save the others, but he refuses. Explaining his decision, he says he can't save everyone by himself. Then Han Sang-a says that's not their mission, and that losses happen. She then turns and asks what he would do in the same situation. He then questions if he should feel compassion and go save them because of it. With a dark look, he says he's not talking about emotion, but about results. In a flashback, he states that some deaths in this world are unavoidable. He continues, saying that in the face of that kind of death, there's only one outcome. Advising the two, he tells them not to get carried away by a desperate situation. He then warns that with that mentality, you can't survive in this world. Arriving at the temple, he kicks the door open to get inside. Assessing the area, He says the building is secure and free of monsters. Once inside, Kim Min-jae asks if he can see anything. Yoo Chan-seok then points out that he can see the other hunters' lights. He explains that using lights is dangerous because it reveals their location. He continues, saying that if another monster of that type appears, it'll be a problem. Deciding to help, he resolves to at least send a warning message to everyone. In the message, he warns them about the monster and the danger of using lights. At another point, someone asks if destroying the rift's core will solve everything. Analyzing the idea, he concludes that the solution to the problem is simple. With a plan in mind, he decides he will destroy the corrosion rift. Meanwhile, Han Sang-ah rests there for a moment with her eyes closed. In the corner, Kim Min-jae also takes the moment to get some rest. Before leaving, Yoo Chan-seok leaves an alarm device on the floor. Trusting the alarm, he decides he can leave them and come back later. Leaving the temple behind, he begins his journey alone through the night. Running through the forest, he believes things will go smoothly, but suddenly, he stops upon sensing an unexpected presence nearby. Just ahead, a dark hooded figure emerges from the darkness. Seeing this, he laments celebrating too soon. The creature asks if it's him again, gathering energy in its hand. Back at the base, an operator reports the loss of the hunter's signal. The nervous operation leader grows angry at reports of organized monsters. He declares an emergency and calls for reinforcements for all hunters. Just then, a subordinate warns that someone is approaching the Alpha Rift. Annoyed, he orders them to stop the person at once and asks who it is. The operator reveals it's Yoo Chan-seok from Team B. Desperate, the leader orders them to connect to the terminal and confirm everything. But just then, Yoo Chan-seok's scream echoes through the communicator. Down on the ground, he yells that the creature is much faster. Over the radio, he curses out the team for not investigating the rift properly. Now confirmed to be alive, Yoo Chan-seok continues his analysis. He realizes he needs to weaken the monster and finish it with his spear. As he starts to flee, he sees the creature won't give up easily. He understands his power is weaker from using too much mana. To win, he needs to find a place on the island to absorb mana. Running through the forest, he seems to spot something just ahead. He confirms he's found what he was looking for in the woods, but the creature catches up, landing hard near him. Skidding to a halt, he stops and prepares for a confrontation. Turning to the monster, he warns that it had better follow him. With a smirk, he says he has something he needs to check first. Back at the base, the operator announces the GPS signal has been lost. The desperate manager realizes he's entered the Alpha Corrosion Rift. Already inside the rift, he remarks that the place is quite clean. Then he wonders about the size of higher-grade rifts. Without wasting time, the creature also enters the rift right behind him. Inside, the monster asks if they should finally settle things between them. In response, the creature just opens its mouth and lets out a roar. Holding his spear, he reveals a problem with his paradoxical flame. He then explains that the flame spreads to all beings. He explains that the flame spreads and even affects his allies. That's why if he loses control, the ability becomes useless. But still, he charges forward and climbs the rock to attack. With his hand raised, he gathers energy for his attack. The creature then starts to be enveloped by the energy he has released. Fighting alone, he says that this disadvantage simply doesn't exist for him. Beginning to concentrate, he gathers mana in the center of his chest. Inside his body, mana flows and strengthens his entire being. Spreading through his body, the mana widens and strengthens his mana pathways. After absorbing the mana, he slowly exhales. Fully energized, he comments that it was more efficient than he had imagined. Before him, the creature roars, sensing the new threat. Suddenly, a wave of energy spreads throughout the area. Realizing the trap, he understands what the creature was planning. Then the monster stops and stares at him from a distance in the open field. Facing the new enemies, he says the creature called for reinforcements, but he warns that it's now too late to try and overwhelm him with numbers. Running towards the abyss, he prepares to jump in. Standing there, he wonders where the rift's core might be. Suddenly, he senses something and tells the creature to stop. Behind him, a hooded being prepares to strike him with a scythe. With a quick glance, he turns to face the new threat. The scythe's blade scrapes along the ground and stops right in front of him. The being says it waited for his flame to run out. Then it warns him that since it's the rift's core, he is going to die. Assessing the situation, he believes he can use a 4-hit combo. Advancing quickly, he prepares to attack the hooded being. The enemy then fires a powerful energy beam at him. With his spear, he manages to block the direct attack. The impact of the block causes a large explosion. He then prepares to use his dual orbit spear technique. With his spear, he unleashes a powerful attack against the masked enemy. The blow lands a direct hit, causing the opponent's mask to start cracking. His technique creates a trajectory that perfectly mimics his first strike. By attacking along with the trajectory, he can create a 4-hit combo, but he wonders what happens if the trajectory attacks with a delay. This completes a double attack that becomes very difficult to dodge. Receiving a delayed double attack, the opponent ends up cornered. Surprised, the enemy stares at the energy coming its way. With no way to react, the opponent is sure to make a mistake. Struck head-on, the Rift's core finally falls to the ground, defeated. With the enemy on the ground, he declares the battle is finally over. The other monsters then begin to be hit by multiple energy attacks. The core's body is also struck by several energy spheres. Watching the mask disintegrate, he says he thought it would just disappear. In place of the mask, he finds a small box and wonders what it is. Opening the box, he sees what's inside and is surprised. With a smile on his face, he just stares at the object he found. Back at the base, chaos erupts with the bad news. Amidst the confusion, a man is bombarded with bad news from all sides. Staring into space, he wonders if this is the end of everything. Hopeless, he laments having to watch everyone be eliminated. But suddenly, a message from Yuchan Seok arrives at the control center. The operator says he'll put the message on the main screen for everyone. The message announces that the Alpha Rift's signal has simply vanished. In disbelief, the operation leader says that it's a miracle. He then wonders how any of it was possible. Sitting outside, he just enjoys the fresh air and the sky. Amidst the chaos, the creatures of corrosion are being destroyed on all sides. With her sword, Han Sang-ah keeps fighting off the approaching monsters. Tired, she says there are too many monsters, and Yu Chan Seok has also disappeared. Beside her, Kim Min-jae just listens to what she said. Completely surrounded, they wonder if they'll make it out of this situation alive. Looking back, she says that Kim Min-jae has already reached his limit. With her leg injured, she adds that she doesn't know how much longer she can last either. Even so, she pushes forward to continue the fight against the remaining enemies. Suddenly, she starts to lose her balance and almost falls to the ground. Muttering that her legs can't hold her, monsters rush in to attack with full force. Seeing this, Kim Min-jae screams her name in total desperation. With a determined look, he turns toward his fallen companion. Under the full moon, a sudden sound echoes throughout the dark forest. Lying on the ground, Han Sang-ah slowly opens her eyes, still confused. Lifting her head, she wonders what could have happened. Confused, she realizes that all the monsters around her have vanished. Back at the meeting point, the hunters gather after the battle. Observing the wounded, Yuchan Seok comments on the creature's attack. Suddenly, 2 hunters recognize him and approach in surprise. They then wonder how he managed to defeat a rift all by himself. From a distance, Kim Min-jae spots Yuchan Seok and calls out to him. He says he was shocked by his message and his plan. Yuchan Seok then says he acted from the heart to protect everyone. But suddenly someone calls out to him, interrupting the group's conversation. A man introduces himself as the manager of the Korea Operations Corporation. Yuchan Seok recognizes him and asks if he has a moment to talk. The manager then says that the city's mayor would like to see him. In the rain, he thinks about negotiating the bonus for clearing the rift. A man with an umbrella approaches to greet him there in the rain. Introducing himself, he says his name is Lee Pilji, the communications officer. Walking down the hall, the man says the mayor was eager for the meeting. He then says the mayor canceled all his morning appointments. He continues, saying that it's rare for a rookie to destroy a rift alone. Arriving at the room, he announces that hunter Yu Chan Seok has finally arrived. Thanking him for coming, the mayor introduces himself and welcomes him. He introduces himself as Park Jae-on, the mayor of Incheon. Then he asks them to sit down and request coffee from the officer. The mayor explains that the island was a problem, but the budget was limited. Sipping his coffee, he confirms this was his first commission as a hunter. Excited, the mayor says he's proud to have a hero like him. Suddenly, the mayor starts talking about the country's security and greatness. He continues, praising the economy and the development of Incheon City. He then assures him that he will offer full assistance for his future. With a serious look, he asks to pose just a single question. Back in the car, he asks what his purpose is as a hunter. He replies that someone needs to dive in and clear out the muck. Hearing the answer, the man just stares back at him without saying a word. Then, the man warns him that he's going to become famous and very popular. He explains that many hunters lose their way because of fame. The man says that, in a way, this is a natural thing to happen. He then reminds him that the only safe place is Korea. Finishing his advice, he says he hopes he will continue to be a symbol. After hearing all this, he becomes curious to see how far they would go. He then realizes he isn't the type to be swayed by this. Interrupting the conversation, he says that to receive support, he needs to give something in return. He suggests helping a mayor with low approval ratings get re-elected. The mayor admits that he is well informed about the current situation. He continues, saying his term ends next year and re-election will be difficult. The mayor then reveals that he needed the city hall's approval. At this, he realizes the mayor just wants to ride on his coattails. The mayor says that as mayor, he maintains relationships with many companies. He then suggests they could replace a coffee brand's model with him. Interrupting, he slams his cup on the table and calls out to the mayor. With a serious look, he says the mayor seems to think he's cheap. Confused, the mayor listens as he says that a new face is needed. He continues, saying that a talent like his should remain a hunter. Then he points out that everything the mayor offered is already his by right. Trying to recover, the mayor offers safe commissions, but he finds the offer uninteresting. With a dismissive gesture, he tells the mayor to congratulate the coffee model instead. He explains that, thanks to this, the model will be able to extend his contract. Changing scenes, heavy rain falls on an outdoor area at night. A hooded figure tells Lee Piljae that the test on the island failed. Lee Piljae says there's nothing to be done, but he has good news. Showing something, he explains it's a clip from his certification exam. In the video, Yoo Chan-seok uses his flame, and the person is impressed. Watching the video, a hooded man comments that he is indeed excellent. As the first day of the month arrives, everyone eagerly awaits the new hunter rankings. Showing his phone, Yoon Seong asked his mother to see what happened. Meanwhile, a group of young people discuss who will be number one. In a hospital room, Kim Min-jae and his companion also wait for the results. Cleaning her sword, Lee Se-yoon wonders if that guy is on the list too. Sitting in his chair, a man realizes that things were different this time. Swiping the screen, he says that what really matters is the top 10. In 10th place, the ranking shows Lee Se-yoon on a mission in the snow. The 5th place is revealed to be the hunter named Kim Chae-hyun. In 3rd place, the ranking shows the powerful Choi Yorium. Taking 2nd place, Jang Tae-suk appears amidst a lot of rubble. Finally, 1st place is announced, and it's the rookie Yoo Chan-seok. Behind the door, a man informs him that he's waited long enough and can come out now. Reading the rookie list, someone points out they saw his name there. Congratulating him on his debut, his name appears on the rankings in record time. He explains that a veteran hunter clearing a grade 3 rift alone would be ignored. But for a rookie's first mission, it's a completely different story. Giving an interview, he says he will only answer one last question. A reporter then asks about his future plans as a hunter. With a serious look, he tells them to forget the usual cliches. He then declares to everyone that he will prove his worth with results. In a helicopter, someone says that place used to be Gonsal Prison. Flying over the city, he comments that most countries lost everything. Only South Korea managed to defend itself and become a world power. He then asks if the other countries ended up like this because of the rifts. The man then suggests they take a closer look at the site. Down below is one of the 8 most dangerous rifts in the world, Gonsal Prison. It formed suddenly 13 years ago. In the city center, the rift's appearance happened without any sign or prior warning, and the few who survived were swept away with no chance to escape. In just a few days, an entire city simply vanished from the map without warning. The man then explains that the power of central governments has weakened significantly. Yoo Chan-seok asks what this has to do with why he's there. The man reveals that Yoon Seong-hyun came looking for him days ago. He then remembers the large man from before, the one who threatened him. Surprised, he hears that Yoon Seong-hyun asked about his whereabouts. The man then warns that the Taebaek Guild might try to subjugate him by force. Worried, he says it would be difficult to beat that guy in a brute force fight. To block the guild, the man suggests he build up his reputation. He then tells him that to do so, he just needs to remember this favor. With that, he hands him an envelope and says, this is all he needs. Yoo Chan-seok asks what his mission will be, and the man explains in the helicopter. Reading the list, he comes across several luxury items for the mission. The man then says that, for some people, these are basic necessities. Confused, he says he doesn't understand why a country would need this. The man then explains that international politics haven't lost their value yet. Understanding the situation, he refuses to take part in the escort mission. Trying to stop him, the man says the mission is important for the government, but he warns that he won't change his mind and get involved in politics. The man then says that he's just a rookie and is being rude. Unfazed, he just stares back at the man in silence. Suddenly, he throws all the mission papers out of the helicopter. Thanking him for the ride, he turns and gets ready to exit the vehicle. Surprised, the man hears him say he's going to swim to Seoul by himself. Stepping onto the edge, he prepares to jump from the moving helicopter. Without hesitating, he throws himself backward towards the sea below. Seeing this, the man is shocked and holds on to keep from falling. With a loud splash, he hits the water, sending up a huge spray. Annoyed, the man just complains about the youth of today. In the background, the sun sets over the great port of Incheon. At the port, A worker takes a break and notices something strange in the water. The water begins to bubble, indicating that something is about to surface. Suddenly, a hand emerges from the water and grabs onto the edge. Climbing out of the water, Yu Chan-seok takes a deep breath, catching his breath. He then says he thought he was going to die from the threat he received. The worker says he must have been through a lot and consoles him. With a new goal in mind, he decides he needs to build his own strength. He then decides he will prioritize the most difficult missions. By doing this, he believes he won't be influenced by anyone else. Looking at his phone, he says that one of the missions looks really good. On the screen, he accepts the mission from the Association for Abduction Victims. The mission takes him to a corrosion rift estimated at grade 2. Sitting on the edge, he watches the sunset before the mission. With a tired look, he says he's going to be busy for a while. On September 3rd, fishermen head out to sea for shrimp season. But this time, the sea was very different from what they were used to. Corrosion creatures appeared and kidnapped the fishermen at sea. According to a survivor, the captured fishermen are reportedly still alive. The mission is to go to the island, rescue the hostages, and eliminate the rift. Looking at his phone, he confirms the details of the mission he accepted. The reward is 55 million and the rift is grade 2. If he can handle it all by himself, the entire reward will be his. On top of that, he'll also get a heroic story and immense fame. Even though it's worth it, he knows the creatures vary greatly in power. He explains that if a grade 3 rift has the power of a tank, a grade 2 creature is already considered a natural disaster, and for a grade 1, an entire country needs to mobilize to fight it. He then wonders if he could handle the power of a grade 2 rift. Thinking about the mission, he concludes there's someone who might be useful. On a boat in the middle of the ocean, he prepares for the next mission. From behind, Han Sang-ah calls out his name. She then asks how much longer until they reach the island. Checking his phone, he replies that it should be about another hour. He then warns her that this battle will be tougher than the last one. Suddenly, she asks about the item he's wearing on his shoulder. Excited, she says it's a limited edition shoulder guard and asks how he got it. He explains that the scrap dealer gave it to him as a gift. With a smile, he says the level of expectation is quite different. He then advises her to get stronger if she feels it's unfair. In a flashback from a few days ago, a conversation between them begins. He invites her to be his teammate on a new mission. She questions if that's possible, remembering the danger they went through. On the phone, he just listens to her attentively without saying a word. He then asks if she doesn't want to become stronger. He assures her that he can teach her how to get much stronger. With his help, she could become several times stronger. Faced with the offer, he then asks what she'll decide to do. Back in the present, she stares at the horizon with a determined look. With determination, she says she'd jump into hell itself to get stronger. Suddenly, an unidentified object is confirmed dead ahead. Looking closer, they realize it's a total of 5 ships approaching. He then wonders how they'll get there without being seen by civilians. He asks if she has a way, but she just leaps up. Surprised, he questions if she actually has a talent for that. With a smile, she teases him about there being something he can't do. Laughing, she says that it's very easy. Without further delay, the two of them leap together toward the sea. Carrying her on his back, he tells her he can't run on water yet. With a focused gaze, he continues to push through the sea with great difficulty. He then asks Han Sang-ah to take care of the ship closest to them. He explains that he can feel mana coming from the ships ahead. After understanding, she agrees and gets ready to go. Looking at the ship, she notices something strange and becomes alert. She then wonders if the figure she sees is human. Landing on the ship, he tells her to look more closely. On the ship, a group of strange creatures is attacking the local fishermen. Seeing the scene, Han Sang-ah leaps and lands hard on the deck. He warns her that if she lands like that, she'll end up hurting her knees. Besides, he says she'll attract unwanted attention. He then stomps on the floor, drawing everyone's attention. Moving quickly, he starts attacking all the creatures at once. He realizes the monsters aren't high level, just grade 2. In that moment, he turns and realizes Han Sang-ah is in danger. Shouting her name, he quickly turns in her direction. He warns her that she's using too much mana and will run out soon. He adds that a much lower level is sufficient. He then remembers the promise he made to her before. In the midst of the fight, she destroys one of the creatures with a powerful attack. He yells that she's still using too much mana unnecessarily. Telling her to cut back more, he continues to instruct her during combat. With a focused gaze, she continues to fight the monsters on the ship. She then remembers that the life of the weak is a tragedy. Using her ability, she hits one of the monsters right in the middle. The creature then opens its mouth and lets out a cry of pain. The attack pierces through the enemy, completely destroying it in seconds. With determination, she says she'd jump into hell itself to get stronger. With one final blow, the creature is destroyed and its remains fall. Standing, she catches her breath after the long, hard battle. He then lands on the ship and asks if the battle is finally over. With a thumbs up, He tells her he's already taken care of all the other boats. In silence, she just holds her sword and stares back at him. Thanking him for the advice, she says she learned a lot with his help. He then wonders what she means by academy and learning. She explains that no one helped her because they found her ability to learn annoying. Hearing this, he just makes a surprised face without saying a word. He then assures her that he'll make sure she keeps learning from him. Arriving at the port, they prepare for the next part of the mission. On site, 2 police officers approach and salute them. Wishing them luck, they say they'll be waiting there on the island. He then says that according to the survivor, the hostages are in the sanctuary. She explains that there are 2 sanctuaries on the island for them to investigate. She says the first sanctuary is a few hours away from there. He then points out that the problem isn't getting there, but getting back. With 15 hostages, the return trip will be much harder if they're injured. Besides, he can feel a sinister mana coming from the fog. To avoid attacks, they need at least 1 vehicle for everyone. Finding a van, he asks if Han Sanga is a good driver. Inside the vehicle, he yells at her, completely terrified of her driving. She then says that if he doesn't like it, he should drive himself. Holding on tight, he tells her to forget it, saying it's better if she drives. He then jumps onto the roof of the van to fight while she drives. He explains that he's much better at fighting than driving a car. Using a whip, he prepares to attack the monsters on the road. With one strike, he hits the van behind them and sends it flying. The blow squarely hits one of the monsters right in the head. Pulling the whip back, he gets ready for the next attack. Attaching the whip to the van, he says the thing is pretty tough. Suddenly, he notices something and is on high alert again. He then warns that there are enemies coming from the left side of the road. With a determined look, she says to leave the new enemies to her. Worried, he tells her to wait, because if she does that, without hesitating, she slams the van right into the monsters. Laughing out loud, she yells for the monsters to get scraped across the asphalt. With a tired look, he says that maybe he should have driven. From a distance, they spot the mountains and the lake, getting closer to their destination. The van climbs a wooden road in the middle of a forest. Right behind them, a horde of monsters continues to chase them relentlessly. Seeing the sanctuary, she tells him to get ready to go in. She says she'll take care of the monsters, and he just agrees to the plan. With a quick move, he gets ready to jump from the moving van. Shouting, she tells him she's going to keep moving forward and leaves him behind. On top of the van, he starts gathering his energy in his hand. Saying the monsters won't stop, he decides to end the chase. With a focused look, he prepares to use his full power. Using his flame, he completely burns the wooden staircase just ahead. He then explains he just needs to burn the stairs to reduce the friction. Sliding quickly, he goes down the flaming staircase to the sanctuary. Inside, Han Sanga finds one of the hostages tied up in a corner. Approaching him, she asks if he's feeling all right. Looking up, the hostage just stammers, unable to answer properly. She then introduces herself as Hunter Han Sanga from the association. Suddenly, the man starts shaking, staring at what's behind her. Without warning, the hostage starts screaming loudly at her. Then the other hostages grab her as she yells that she came to save them. Crying, the first man just screams for her to run as fast as she can. Confused by the situation, she asks what they mean by that. Behind her, a large armored figure appears, ready for combat. Arriving just in time, Yu Chan-seok blocks the sword's blow with his spear. Then he tells her to take the survivors, saying he'll handle the enemy. The enemy attacks him with a sword, but he manages to defend himself. Struck by a blow, the warrior falls hard onto the sanctuary floor. Raising his sword, the warrior prepares for another attack against him. From under his helmet, the enemy glares at him with a menacing look. He then prepares to strike the great warrior with his spear. Rushing forward, he strikes the enemy's leg with a swift blow. Shouting for him to die, he attacks with all his might to win. The blow shatters the enemy's helmet, revealing his true identity. After being defeated, the great warrior kneels on the sanctuary floor. Opening the door, he warns her not to touch the steering wheel on the way back. Outside, he asks if all the hostages are on board. Han Sang-ah then notices something strange and becomes alert again. She tells him to look ahead, because there's something on the road. In the darkness, dozens of red eyes stare relentlessly at the van. Suddenly, a horde of creatures leaps onto the van to attack. With a smile, he says the monsters are still alive after all. Turning back, he asks Han Sanga to lend him her sword. Annoyed, she says that asking for her sword is a great insult to her. He then says she knows what's more important right now. Without hesitation, he jumps onto the van's roof with the sword in hand. Holding the sword, he prepares to use a new skill. He then says he didn't think he'd need to use this so soon. In a flashback, he walks through a grade 3 rift. Inside, he finds a mysterious item and is quite surprised. Getting closer, he wonders if the object is just a glove. Putting on the glove, he realizes it wasn't an ordinary item. The glove begins to gather mana from the atmosphere around it. He then concludes it's an item to supplement the user's mana. But for him, the glove has a capacity of about 5 minutes. During that time, he can become strong enough to fight. Back in the present, he jumps onto the van's roof with his weapons. Activating the glove, he prepares to fight the horde of monsters. With sword in hand, he attacks and destroys all nearby enemies. Seeing this, Han Sang-ga is shocked by the power he displays. He then tells her to drive to the port without looking back. The van speeds up, leaving the horde of monsters behind in the forest. Arriving at the port, they encounter more enemies on the road. She then says she thought they just had to get past the monsters. From the van's roof, he continues to fight the creatures that appear. She warns that the van is at its limit, but he tells her to just drive. Suddenly, the van is surrounded by the enemy's energy. The energy hits the tires, causing the van to lose control. With one last attack, the creatures of corrosion are completely destroyed. With a serious look, she continues to drive at high speed. The van then manages to break through the barrier and move forward. Looking back, she notices the monsters are being blocked by something. She then wonders what could be stopping the monsters from advancing. Through the window, she sees a symbol on the wall and wonders if that's the reason. Back in the flashback, he draws the same symbol on a building's wall. He then explains that it's a drawing method that repels monsters. She asks where he learned it, but he says he can't teach her. He says he's getting better and better at his fighting skills. She then asks if the method works against any type of monster. He replies that he wishes it did, but unfortunately it doesn't. The technique doesn't work on the real monsters they encounter up ahead. The great warrior just repeats that he needs to protect something there. With a shiver, she feels a strange sensation and becomes alert. He explains that the atmosphere has grown cold, but it doesn't seem like a threat. She then remembers the skill to predict an opponent's attack. At that, she grips the hilt of her sword, preparing for combat. Telling her not to be afraid, he gets ready to show her how to fight. He then says these techniques are nothing more than simple tricks. With a focused look, he says he'll teach her how to deal with it. The warrior then writhes in pain and prepares to attack. He raises his sword and charges for another attack against the hunter. Confused, she asks why he's going against the enemy alone. He explains that the skill is a reflex born from experience. The warrior stops his attack upon sensing the intent coming from Yu-chan Seok. She then remembers the names of the skills he mentioned before. He says all those names are just for the so-called realms. Without waiting, he moves forward and prepares to strike the enemy. The warrior tries to defend himself, but the blow lands squarely. With a single strike, he destroys the armored warrior's arm. He then says that, in truth, these techniques are nothing special. He explains that what matters on the battlefield doesn't need a name. He states that he has every right to say what he's saying. To escape the trap, he says he paid with countless sacrifices in the past. Then he comments that the enemy survived the car, but his technique was simple. With a frustrated look, she begins to question what she's accomplished on her own. She then remembers that his strength surpassed anything she could have imagined. Determined, she grips her sword tighter, changing her mindset on the spot. Focusing on her goal, she turns to him with a newfound determination. With a serious look, she then asks him to truly teach her. He then asks if he isn't already teaching her with his tips. She says she doesn't just want advice, but his direct guidance. Admitting her weakness, she says she wants to progress even faster. He gives her a serious look and asks why she's in such a hurry. With determination, she reveals she wants to take down the Shaddai Club. The Shaddai Club is one of the 8 most dangerous rifts in the world. He tells her that goal is far too ambitious. She then confirms it's revenge for her family. Taking the card, he reads the name KY Group and the amount. He's then surprised to find out she was from an important family. He warns her that if she succeeds, she could end up in the line of succession. She then tells him to make her the best, and she'll give him elixirs. Extending her hand, she offers him the elixirs to achieve his desires. He realizes she wouldn't believe him if he told her the truth. The realm he wants to reach is one he already achieved long ago. He explains that his only goal is to return the world to how it was. As they shake hands, he says he doesn't need anything so hard to obtain. For now, he says he just needs to take the car to the medical center. At the hospital, a doctor jots down information about the newly arrived patients. He then asks how long everyone's recovery will take. The doctor informs him it will be at least a week before they can talk. The doctor asks them to let the patients rest, saying he'll notify them when they wake up. He then calls her outside, saying they should start right now. Outside, he faces her, already prepared for the training. Before they begin, he says he has a question for her. He then asks if she can dodge a full-force attack. She says it would be difficult, but he assures her she can dodge it. He explains that if she pushes her senses to the limit, it's possible. The training begins, and he tells her to see with her eyes. Continuing the instruction, he tells her to listen with her ears. He continues, telling her to smell her surroundings. Then he tells her to feel everything with her own skin. As he gets closer, he tells her to master all her senses. He asks, "Got it?" and then immediately tests her reaction. Suddenly vanishing, he disappears before he even finishes speaking. Not knowing where he is, she tries to locate him by sound first. Appearing behind her, he warns that her choice was wrong. He explains that senses come first, and thoughts follow. Placing the spear against her, he tells her to trust her senses and move. With the theory portion finished, he announces they'll now move on to practice. Just then, a huge explosion goes off in a building nearby. Seeing the smoke, the two police officers run toward the sound. Arriving at the scene, one of them wonders where they went, but the officer is shocked and can't finish his sentence. Startled, he just asks what it is he's seeing. Amidst the dust, Han Sang-a and Yu Chan-seok exchange blows. Advancing with her sword, she prepares to attack with all her strength. He then prepares to block the blow with his spear. With one move, he disarms her and throws her aside. Without her weapon, she slides toward the edge of the building under construction. Suddenly, he appears and catches her before she can fall. With a focused gaze, she holds her sword and prepares to attack. She then realizes she can't dodge the attack he's preparing. Suddenly, one of the officers shouts his name, interrupting the training. Running toward them, the officer reports that one of the survivors has woken up. Confused, she wonders if their time is up and halts her attack. Seeing her progress, he says they'll end the first training session there. At the hospital, he asks the survivor if he's feeling okay. He then explains that a truck arrived at the place where he was held captive. Confused, they wonder if more hostages were arriving at the location. He says they were too calm and didn't seem hostile. He then explains that they took some of the hostages and led them away. He continues, saying they were too calm to be hostages. Yu Chan-seok understands why there were only 7 hostages at the site. The survivor then reveals it wasn't an escape, but something planned. Surprised, Han Sang-a hears that the others let them go. He says it's strange for a civilian to escape from such a dangerous place. She then wonders if the mission was a trap from the start. With a dark smile, he grows irritated at the enemy's audacity. Han Sang-a wonders why he's so angry. He then asks the survivor if he can remember anything else. The survivor says he remembers seeing a cat at the location. He continues, saying that on the person's hip, there was a cat mascot. Arriving at the airport, they prepare for the next stage of the mission. She asks how he found out, and he tells her to use her phone. She then says he wouldn't understand, since normal people pay bills. Seeing no one around, she suggests they return to the sanctuary, but he tells her there's no need, as he's found who he was looking for right there. Looking up, they see a face full of piercings staring down at them. With a smile, he wonders if the face was stitched together by a machine. With his arms crossed, the man greets them, calling the two of them brats. Introducing himself as Kim Ji-hyun, the man stares down at them. He then informs them that he'll be the one to get them out of there alive. Surprised, they question what he means by getting them out alive. Just then, he lifts up an injured hostage, saying he'll show them the opposite first. Then, he simply throws the man into a dark rift. Shocked, Han Sang-a asks if he's throwing people into the corrosion rift. Her eyes widen completely as she witnesses the enemy's cruel act. Moments later, the man re-emerges, transformed into a terrifying creature of corrosion. Almost instantly, the creature is sliced in half by a swift attack. Seeing the scene, Yu Chan-seok murmurs that this can't be real. Kim Ji-hyun begins to explain that they must be wondering why. Smiling, he reveals that sacrificing ordinary people didn't produce satisfactory creatures. Hearing this, Han Sang-a realizes they didn't want the hostages' money. Yu Chan-seok then concludes that they needed the hostages themselves as raw material. Ji-hyun says he doesn't mind explaining their grand cause. He continues, saying their goal is to strengthen South Korea. With a shout, he stomps on the ground, shattering everything around him. He then charges straight at Yu Chan-seok, who prepares his defense. Using his weapon, Chan-seok blocks the punch, but the impact shatters his shield. Surprised by the strength, he complains that this is a load of bullshit. The scene quickly cuts to the facade of a large blue building. Back in the arena, Yu Chan-seok says he thought the country was already strong. Shouting, Ji-hyun replies that it's not enough and that they will go further. Unfazed, Yu Chan-seok gets into position, ready for the next move. Then Ji-hyun leaps, preparing a kick and shouting about becoming a superpower. In midair, he tells the young man to think about the history of the Korean peninsula. Showing the past, he speaks of the tributes and how they were forced to bow down. Then he recalls that, in the end, their sovereignty was stolen by another nation. Ji-hyun then shouts that they will repay every humiliation they've ever suffered. Landing hard, he promises they will leave absolutely nothing behind. He states that without the rifts, Korea would lose its current position of power. Watching the fight, Han-sang-ah says this means something very specific. Yoo Chan-seok then states that he has no intention of saving the world, and Ji-hyun confirms it. Mentioning the lives at stake, he questions Ji-hyun's priorities, but Ji-hyun says they know nothing. He then reveals that his group has found a way to control the rifts. Chan-seok retorts that if that were true, they could be living stable lives. At the revelation, Ji-hyun shows interest in cooperating, but Han Sang-ah shouts out Chan-seok's name. With a mocking tone, Ji-hyun simply asks why he should tell them anything. He reveals they've already managed to control enough, which irritates Yoo Chan-seok. The young man then accuses him of being a con artist who never shows any proof. Furious, Ji-hyun screams at him to shut up and attacks with a high kick. Barely dodging, Chan-seok regrets having gone too far with the provocation. He explains to himself that he tried to buy time for his mana, but it didn't work. Unable to use his best technique, a battle of attrition becomes his only option. In another part of the arena, Han Sang-ah charges forward and attacks one of the creatures. Surprised by the move, Ji-hyun wonders what's happening over there. With a scornful tone, he says he thought she was quiet because she was scared. Seeing her stance, he asks if she managed to muster up some courage, but Yoo Chan-seok tells her to fall back, saying she can't handle him. She then pulls out an elixir, asking how much time he needs to recover. Replying that he needs 5 minutes, he watches her drink the entire contents of the vial. Then, she throws the empty container on the ground, ready for the confrontation. With her body releasing power, she tells him to leave everything to her. He worriedly asks about the elixir, warning that she might overload. Agreeing with the plan, he states that he can finish everything after the 5 minutes are up. With a serious look, she simply asks Yoo Chan-seok not to lose. Changing scenes, the sky quickly darkens over a mountain road. Suddenly, a huge bolt of lightning cuts through the clouds, illuminating the dark landscape. Back in the arena, Ji-hyun tells the girl to take it easy during the fight, but she unleashes a powerful blow, and someone screams that she might kill him. Struck head-on, Ji-hyun's eyes widen, completely stunned. A pillar of energy crashes down directly on the man, kicking up a lot of dust. Seeing the result, Han Sang-ah wonders if she managed to hit him successfully, but Ji-hyun appears, injured, spitting blood and questioning what just happened. He's thrown back, asking if that attack was meant to be something special. With a swift counterattack, he hurls Han Sang-ah forcefully in the opposite direction. Hit squarely by the blow, she is launched into the air, completely defenseless. Just then, Yoo Chan-seok appears and manages to catch her before she hits the ground. Looking down, Ji-hyun taunts him, calling him by the nickname Stitch Face. Holding the girl, Chan-seok asks if he is ready to die now. Confused, Ji-hyun questions how his mana increased so much in such a short time. With his ally in his arms, Chan-seok asks why he's so surprised. He then explains that the principle is the same as the piercings Ji-hyun uses. With his weapon in hand, he says that only an idiot wouldn't know that. Finishing his explanation, he tells Ji-hyun to look around and see the mana. Raising his weapon, he says that thanks to this, he's recovered his main technique. Ji-hyun shouts, questioning how he absorbed the mana that was wasted in the air. Chan-seok replies that he doesn't need to know because he's going to die right here. Charging forward, he unleashes a rapid sequence of 16 direct strikes. Gasping for air, Ji-hyun says he can't breathe or even feel his heartbeat. Yoo Chan-seok watches him, saying he can barely stand using just mana. He then explains that his strike burned away all of his enemy's muscle strength. In that instant, a sudden flash of light zips across the battlefield at high speed. Realizing it's a surprise attack, he quickly turns to shield himself from the impact. Using his weapon, he manages to deflect the projectile at the last possible second. With the deflection, an arrow embeds itself forcefully into the ground right beside him. Still recovering, he wonders what the hell that was this time. From a distance, a hooded man says he intended to crush his wrist. Praising his reaction, he adds that the young man has shown great instincts. Chan-seok analyzes him, wondering if this is the group's captain. He admits that this opponent is at least twice as strong as Lee Si-yoon. The captain then asks if he isn't afraid of death, since he's so brave. Looking up, he says that if the captain intended to kill him, he would have done it already. Then he asks if the captain is interested in the power of his eye. In agony, Ji-hyun begs for help, saying the flames are getting stronger. The captain then orders him to put out the flames, warning that he won't repeat himself. The scene changes, showing the moment he deflected the earlier attack. With the order followed, the flames finally die out, leaving Ji-hyun exhausted. He stands there, completely drained of strength and unable to move on his own. Just then, the captain suddenly appears beside him and holds him firmly. Looking at his subordinate, he simply says it was a good job. Then he appears in front of Chan-seok and asks if he realizes what he's done. He explains that Ji-hyun will now live in a wheelchair, with no muscle strength. Warning that he needs him alive, the captain says just breathing is enough. Chan Seok defies him, saying he'd rather die than become his puppet. Deciding to retreat, the captain says he needs to understand the principle behind that flame. Even as he leaves, he states that his plan to control the rifts has succeeded. Then he warns that one day Yu Chan Seok will also be under his control. Disappearing completely, he leaves a final warning that it is inevitable. Defeated for now, he just laments that the situation ended this way. Irritated, he complains about getting involved with someone with such a bad temper. Approaching him, Han Sanga asks if those guys were after his ability. She then suggests they might know something about his past. Asking her to think carefully, he questions the group's true objectives. Then, it clicks for her, and she wonders about the Korean government's reaction. Yu Chan Seok raises the possibility that they are receiving direct support from the government. Unsure of what to do, she asks if they should clear the rift anyway. She confesses she's not good at lying, and he says he figured as much. Decisively, he says he'll handle the situation alone and asks her to wait. A little worried, she asks if he's okay with her not following him. Looking back, he warns her that she has no idea what has been done. He then says he'll find out everything as soon as he gets there. Jumping into the rift, he tells her to rest and recover until he returns. Without hesitation, he dives alone into the complete darkness of the corrosion rift. Arriving at the new location, he finds himself before a huge, ancient temple. Inside the structure, he observes the mysterious, fog-filled environment. Approaching, he touches the surface of one of the large wooden doors. He then confirms that this place is a Z-grade corrosion rift. Analyzing the structure, he notes that everything seems terribly solid here. Taking a deep breath, he feels a strange energy piercing his lungs. Looking at a sealed door, he realizes the rift's core is right behind it. Even though he dislikes the thought, he prepares for the coming battle. He understands that any carelessness here could mean his immediate end. At that moment, the large door in front of him finally begins to open. Entering the room, he finds a strange cauldron with a green fire in its center. Surprised by the sight, he wonders if that's really a cauldron. He then questions if that object could be the core of the corrosion rift. Noting it's different than expected, he sees a hand emerging from the cauldron. His eye widens completely as he sees the figure emerging from within the fire. On the floor, a man desperately begs him to save him from this place. From inside the cauldron, a strange, slimy creature slowly begins to emerge. Screaming in pain, the man says his legs are gone and begs for help. He is then dragged toward the cauldron, still trying to cry for help. Grabbed by several tentacles, he is pulled into the green liquid. Disappearing into the liquid, his last cries for help are completely muffled. Immediately after, a hand grips the edge of the cauldron forcefully. From it emerges a new corrosion creature, letting out a guttural and terrifying grunt. He then realizes the cauldron was creating undead by using living people. The scene triggers a quick flashback to a traumatic event from his past. Looking at an explosion, he remembers hearing the screams of people begging for help. Back in the present, the sight nauseates him, making him cover his mouth. Emerging, the creature from the cauldron says that humans are disgusting and filthy beings. Turning to him, it stares him down, calling him just another simple sacrifice. But it notices he's strange, very different from the previous sacrifices it has received. Analyzing him, it says it feels a strong and familiar energy coming from the young man. Finally revealed, the spirit says that this is the energy of a true warrior. Telling him to draw his weapon, the spirit challenges him to a fight. He then warns that he will temper his own blade with his blood. Feeling the pressure, he wonders how the captain managed to control that monster. The spirit tells him to focus on the fight that's about to begin. He then warns that any carelessness in his presence will be fatal. Prepared, Chan Seok takes a deep breath, ready to begin the battle against the spirit. The spirit states that carelessness before him results in certain death. He can barely react to the first attack, which narrowly misses him. Surprised by his speed, the spirit remarks that his lifeline is a long one. Knowing how to deal with the enemy, he prepares to end it all. He then lunges forward to end the fight with a single, decisive blow. Seeing the attack, the spirit's eye glows, awaiting the young man's move. Using his weapon, the spirit prepares to block the incoming attack, but his strike is easily stopped, surprising the young warrior. Seeing his attack blocked, he is shocked by the spirit's strength. In disbelief, he doesn't understand how his ultimate attack was blocked so easily. He says the most unbelievable part was not even seeing the block. With his sword in hand, the spirit begins to explain his speed. He then states that a truly fast attack, by its very nature, should not be seen. Counterattacking in an instant, he lands a deep cut on the young man's chest. Feeling the pain, he wonders how the enemy can be even faster. The spirit says he's good at dodging vital points, as he prepares a new strike. With several simultaneous strikes, he dares him to try and block the next attack. Hit head-on, he feels the impact, spitting blood from the pain. After the attack, the spirit sheathes his sword, observing his opponent. Fallen on the ground, Yu Chan-seok stares at the spirit, completely drained of strength. Dropping his weapon, he activates the power of the paradoxical flame in his hand. He realizes the flame has no effect on a non-living being like him. Seeing this, the spirit comments that this is quite a series of surprises. Curious, he says he wants to find out what it will take to finally defeat him. Struck head-on, he feels the brutal impact of the spirit's blow. He then realizes the attack tore through every muscle in his body. Though badly injured, he backs away as the spirit readies his weapon again. Preparing a counterattack, he says he almost lost consciousness for a moment, but for some reason, he notices the blow didn't hit his shoulders. Using the flame, he heals his muscles and moves behind the enemy. Now in position, he wonders if this might be his only chance to win. Seeing the movement, the spirit faces him, reminding him that he'd already warned him. With a mocking tone, he simply states that the young man is too slow. Twisting his body, he lands a precise cut, severing Chan-seok's arm. After the attack, drops of blood begin to drip onto the stone floor. Kneeling on the ground, he glares at the spirit, who watches him with an air of superiority. With no strength left to continue, he just gasps, feeling the pain of the wound. Still, he manages a defiant smile for his opponent. Unleashing everything, he prepares to use his ultimate power to win the fight. Far away, the spirit floats in the air, staring at the young man on the ground. Seeing the recovery, the spirit is completely surprised by what's happening. Just then, dark flames cover his body, restoring his energy and healing his wounds. Intrigued, he says the young man has a peculiar ability, unlike any other. With a smile, he confirms that the flame is capable of burning concepts. He explains that although it seems to have infinite power, that's not quite the case. He continues, saying that greater concepts demand much more mana and also proficiency. Remembering the fight, he had to be careful not to burn away his muscular strength. Comparing himself to the past, he says his former self was much stronger. Decisively, he realizes it's no longer time to save his power. With a serious look, he warns that he's going to burn away the entire durability of the place. Confused, the spirit asks what he means by burning its durability. Stating that he has explained enough, he simply makes a gesture with his hand. Feeling the effect, the spirit's eyes widen as it senses the imminent attack. In pain, it clutches its chest, not understanding what's happening. Smiling, he tells the spirit to try and figure it out while taking a beating. He then explains he was curious to see how far he could go. Then the spirit announces they will take the fight elsewhere. The scene changes as the temple roof begins to tremble and break apart. Suddenly, the entire place starts to crumble into pieces. Falling amidst the rubble, the two face each other during the descent. Immediately after, a massive explosion sends everything flying. Getting up from the ground, the spirit prepares to attack the young man again. With a swift attack, it lunges forward, but the young man manages to block the blow. Forcing the block, their weapons grind against each other violently. Without giving in, he continues to hold back the spirit's attack with all his might. Seizing the opportunity, he manages to push the spirit back to gain some distance. In the motion, the spirit's silhouette is cut by a clean strike. The scenery shifts. They are now in a completely rocky and deserted place. Above them, a large planet can be seen in the perfectly clear sky. Falling all around, pieces of rock fill the destroyed landscape. Just then, a point of light appears on one of the falling rocks. Emerging from within the rock, he propels himself upward with force. Flying at high speed, he leaves a long trail of destruction behind him. Meanwhile, the spirit floats, watching its opponent's swift approach. Facing the attack, it holds its position in the air to defend. Then he prepares a powerful kick, concentrating all his energy into the blow. With the kick, several projectiles are fired directly at the spirit. Receiving the hit, the spirit is struck head-on by the entire barrage. Thrown backward, it is hurled forcefully against the rocky ground. Upon touching the ground, it questions what that energy is beneath its feet. Then it says it has never encountered this before, not even on battlefields. Getting up, the spirit asks the young man what he truly is. Seeing a new attack form, it becomes completely paralyzed on the spot. Right in front of it, a glowing symbol appears, ready to explode at any moment. Advancing, he delivers a final blow with his weapon against the spirit. The attack's energy then envelops the spirit, trapping it in place. Trapped by the energy, the spirit screams, feeling the power of the continuous attack. Unable to escape, it continues to scream, as it's consumed by the young man's technique. Under the pressure, the core in its chest finally begins to crack. From a distance, a new creature observes the battle, standing still and waiting for the right moment. Preparing to strike, the creature lunges toward them at high speed. Arriving in the blink of an eye, the creature attacks Chan Seok with impressive speed. Hit. He is thrown backward, taking the full impact of the surprise attack. But in the same instant, the creature is also struck by a blow. With a savage grin, the two face each other, seeming to enjoy the fight. Maintaining their smiles, they stare each other down as the battle's intensity only grows. The scene changes to a crater filled with a strange energy. Suddenly, all the energy accumulated in the crater explodes with immense force. In a flashback, someone asks what he would do against an unbeatable opponent. In a flashback, the young man asks how he would handle an equal warrior. Even knowing the question isn't interesting, he continues the conversation with the hero. Then the hero repeats his point about an opponent he couldn't defeat alone. He then imagines what would happen if someone with power equal to his own appeared. With a serious look, the hero says the answer to that is obvious. Back in the present, he remembers the hero saying that only one would come out alive. Just then, the creature begins to dissolve, completely defeated by his technique. With its body vanishing completely, the monster finally disappears from that strange place. With a smile, he says one thing is certain and declares himself the strongest. Falling to the ground, the spirit weapon shatters, marking the end of the fight. Watching the enemy's body disappear, he stands up, victorious after the battle. Right after his victory, a reward chest appears right in front of him. Approaching it, he says the chest looks just like the ones from the other world. With a quick move, he opens the chest to claim his reward. Picking up the item, he wonders if it's a spear, finding it too short. Holding the weapon, he seems to get an idea about its true ability. Suddenly, the weapon extends, transforming into a real spear. He then realizes its length can be extended using his mana. Remembering the rules, he knows that the rewards depend on the number of people. Thinking about this, he regrets not bringing Han Sang-ah to get her share. Suddenly, he wonders if his partner's sword is still in one piece. Cutting to a new scene, Han Sang-ah is seen sleeping peacefully in a bed. Still asleep, she seems to be recovering from her battle wounds. Elsewhere, a white-haired man manages to block a powerful attack. Waking up suddenly, she calls out for Yu Chan Seok, still a bit confused. Already on his feet, he tosses her a new sword, telling her she can keep it. Seeing the weapon, she thanks him, commenting that the sword is very well maintained. She then asks where he found the sword and if he's okay. Announcing he's going to rest, he collapses to the ground, completely exhausted from the fight. Looking at him, she realizes he's passed out, something she does too. Off-screen, a narrator explains the power difference between levels. Changing the scene, some people on the street are talking about the rookie hunter. On the streets, several large screens show the face of Chan Seok, who has become a celebrity. With his phone in hand, he complains that he can't even see his messages. Looking out the window, he laments that he can no longer walk around outside peacefully. Just then, a woman introduces herself as Ja Sujong from the Embargo Tower. As she enters the room, he thanks her for covering his hospital bills. She then asks him to let her know if he feels any discomfort there. Seeing the costs, he asks what she really wants in return for all this. Asking to get straight to the point, he tells her not to waste any more time. With a smile, she offers him a piece of cake and asks if he likes sweets. Cutting to a new scene, a shield generator is shown with its full description. After the presentation, a strawberry cake is shown on the table. Eating the cake, he understands the mission is to transport the generator. She explains that the device can bring relief to more distant areas. Listening to her explanation, he stares at her with a serious, focused gaze. He asks if the request is large-scale, and she confirms that it is. Upon learning that Janabi will be helping, he realizes this is serious business. She then explains that the generator will be transported by train. Asked about the destination, she explains the influence of one of the Great Eights. She continues, saying that the United Kingdom is the only safe place right now. Explaining the situation in Europe, she says that corporations have taken control there. He then concludes that many people will try to attack the train during the journey. She asks about his travels, and he says this will be his first time in Europe. With a smile, she says she'll be one of the people on the mission. While eating, he says it's good to have a familiar face around on the mission. Picking up a fork, he says he has one condition for accepting the proposal. He explains that he wants Han Sang-ah to accompany them, as he made a promise. Thanking him for saying that, she comments that his request isn't a bad thing for her. Extending his hand, he says he looks forward to working with her on this. Changing the scene, a helicopter lands on top of a large building in the city. Getting out of the helicopter, he comments on the difference of facing a Z-rank rift. An older man says that his expectations have turned into certainty with his achievement. Satisfied, he says it's good to hear that, and that proving his abilities helps. Looking back, he wonders if the boss knows about the others. He then wonders if the boss would want to maintain it or end it all. Opening the door, he's surprised by the person on the other side. Sitting down, Lee Se-yoon says it's been a while since they last met. She then comments that the rumors about him have spread everywhere. Watching the helicopter take off, he asks where they're going, hearing that it's a base. He then comments that the generator's success would reduce the dependency on hunters. Confirming she knows the group, she says she encountered them during the mission. At that, she explains that they always show up to interfere with the hunters' missions. Remembering the enemy, he says he understands perfectly what she's talking about. She then observes him for a moment, keeping her gaze serious and fixed. Then, she holds out her hand and offers him a piece of candy, which he takes immediately. Surprised, he looks at the pumpkin candy and asks why she gave it to him. Moving closer, she asks if he has ever traveled to another country. With a thoughtful look, she starts to say that this mission probably will. As the helicopter flies, she finishes her sentence saying that he will realize many things.